Hey everyone, have you ever thought about this? Is it okay to skip just one day? What if I don't work out for a week? Or how much muscle will I lose if I take a month off? Many of you feel anxious every time you miss a workout. You worry that all that hard-earned muscle will disappear, right? I used to feel the same way. A few years ago when I couldn't work out for a week due to a business trip, I was genuinely anxious. When I got back and looked in the mirror, I really thought my muscles had shrunk. But the scientific truth was very different from what I thought. Today I'm going to tell you the exact timeline, backed by science, of how fast you actually lose muscle and how long it takes to get it back. After learning this, you'll no longer feel anxious about missing a day or two of exercise. At the same time, you'll know exactly when you should genuinely start worrying. And if you've taken a long break, I'll show you how to regain your muscle most effectively. First, we need to understand how muscle is built and maintained. When we exercise, microscopic damage occurs in our muscle fibers. Our body then repairs this damage by building stronger and bigger muscles. This process is called muscle protein synthesis and occurs most actively for 24 to 48 hours after exercise. But there's also an opposite process called muscle protein breakdown. Our bodies constantly repeat the cycle of breaking down and rebuilding muscle. In healthy people, these two processes are balanced. But when you stop exercising, this balance starts to shift. So here's the first important question. What happens if you rest for 1 or 2 days? I'm going to tell you something surprising. You don't need to worry at all. According to research from the University of Copenhagen, in Denmark, for the first 72 hours after stopping exercise, there's virtually no change in muscle mass. In fact, this period is when your muscles recover and grow. Many professional athletes intentionally take 1 or 2 complete rest days per week. These are called recovery days, and research from the American College of Sports Medicine shows that proper rest is essential for muscle growth. You've heard the saying that muscles grow when you rest, not when you exercise, right? It's absolutely true, so you don't need to feel guilty at all if you couldn't work out for 1, 2, or even 3 days. Your muscles are likely recovering and getting stronger during that time. Especially if you normally train hard, this rest might actually help. But what happens after a week? This is when changes start to occur gradually. However, it's not as dramatic as you might think. Research from the University of Texas Department of Exercise Physiology shows that after 1 week without exercise, strength starts to decrease slightly. But surprisingly, this isn't actual muscle mass loss. What I mean is, after about a week of rest, neuromuscular efficiency decreases. Simply put, the connection between your brain and muscles becomes slightly less sharp. It's like riding a bicycle after not riding for a long time. It feels a bit awkward at first, but the actual muscle tissue itself remains almost intact. According to research from Liverpool John Moores University in the UK, muscle mass loss after 1 week of rest averaged less than 0.3%. So if you go on vacation for a week or you're too busy to work out, you really don't need to worry much. When you start exercising again, you can return to your previous condition within a few days. In my experience, after taking a week off, only the first 2 days feel slightly hard, and by the 3rd day you're almost back to normal. What about 2 to 3 weeks? This is where you need to be a bit more careful. According to long-term research from Deakin University in Australia, if you don't exercise for about 2 weeks, strength decreases by approximately 6 to 8%, and actual muscle mass also starts to decrease by about 2 to 3%. But here's an important point. The rate at which muscle decreases varies greatly from person to person. There's an interesting finding from McMaster University research team in Canada. People with longer exercise histories lose muscle more slowly. When comparing someone who exercised consistently for over 5 years with someone who exercised for about 1 year, the long-term exerciser experienced about 40% less muscle loss during the same rest period. This is because of a phenomenon called muscle memory. People who've built muscle before recover it much faster when they start exercising again. Research from the University of Oslo in Norway shows that muscle cell nuclei, once created, remain for a long time and enable rapid growth when you exercise again. Some studies suggest this muscle memory lasts up to 15 years. So if you've exercised hard in the past, don't worry too much even if you're taking a break now. Your muscle cells still have that memory, and when you restart, you'll recover much faster than you think. Now what about 1 month? This is when you need to think more seriously. According to research from Ball State University in the United States, stopping exercise for 4 to 6 weeks results in strength decreasing by 12 to 15% and muscle mass decreasing by an average of 5 to 7%. But there's an interesting fact here too. A research team from the University of Tokyo in Japan discovered that strength drops faster than muscle mass. Why? Because the neuromuscular connection we mentioned earlier weakens. The ability to use muscles efficiently decreases before actual muscle tissue disappears. This is also good news because neuromuscular connections recover quickly once you start exercising again. According to research from the University of Freiburg in Germany, when someone who rested for a month starts exercising again, about 70% of their strength returns within 2 weeks. Getting completely back to original levels takes 4 to 6 weeks though. What about 3 months? This is where the impact becomes definitely significant. According to long-term tracking research from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, not exercising for 12 weeks results in an average strength decrease of 23% and muscle mass decrease of about 12%. But what's amazing is, you're still better off than before you ever started training. If you spent a year working hard and gained 10 kilograms of muscle, even after 3 months off, about 8.5 kilograms remain. And when you restart, thanks to muscle memory, you'll return to your original level much faster than someone starting fresh. A research team from the University of Paris in France conducted an interesting experiment. They compared a group that trained hard for 12 weeks with a group that rested for 12 weeks. When the resting group restarted exercise, the time it took to return to their original level averaged 7 weeks. Compare that to new beginners, taking 12 weeks to reach the same level, almost half the time. Age is also an important factor here. Unfortunately, the older you get, the faster muscle decreases. According to research from Maastricht University in the Netherlands, people over 60 experience similar muscle loss after just 2 weeks as younger people do after 4 weeks. This is due to a phenomenon called sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. After age 40, muscles naturally decrease by about 0.5 to 1% per year. That's why as you age, you need to exercise more regularly and keep rest periods shorter. So what if you need to take a long break due to injury or illness? This is a really important question. Research from the University of Minnesota Medical Center shows that muscle loss is much faster when you can't move at all. For example, when you have a cast or are bedridden. Unlike healthy people who simply don't exercise, if you can't even do daily activities, you can lose about 3 to 5% of muscle per week. After just 2 weeks, it can decrease by more than 10%. NASA data studying astronauts on the International Space Station shows that in zero-gravity environments, muscles can decrease by up to 10% per week. But there's hopeful news here too. A research team from the University of Nottingham in the UK discovered that while one leg is immobilized due to injury, exercising the other leg can reduce muscle loss in the immobilized leg by up to 40%. This is called the cross-education effect. Also, increasing protein intake can greatly reduce muscle loss. According to Dutch research, consuming more than 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight during rest reduced muscle loss by about 30%. So for someone weighing 70 kilograms, that's about 110 grams of protein per day. Now let's get to the practical part. What should you do when restarting after a long break? The most important principle is to start slowly. Australian Institute of Sport guidelines suggest taking about half the length of your rest period as a readaptation period. For example, if you rested for 3 months, take about 6 weeks to gradually increase intensity. In the first week, start with about 50% of your original weight. Then increase by 10% each week. Trying to jump back to your previous weights suddenly carries very high injury risk. Your muscles are more loyal than you think. Once built, muscle is a lifelong asset. Even if you rest for a while and come back, it will welcome you. So rest assured and exercise consistently from a long-term perspective. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe. And share your experiences in the comments. How long did you rest before restarting? How long did recovery take? I'm curious. Wishing you a healthy fitness journey. Thank you.